We would like to welcome you all to Life in a Podcast. This is Elijah, Uriah. I'm Chris. And here, today we're going to talk about gun control and mental health in America. Seeing as how there was just another tragic school shooting in Nashville, this topic seems to be up front, so we feel like we would talk about it.
Well, we wanted more to share our thoughts with you and our thought processes of diagnosing everything and all the factors involved and why we feel the way we feel about it.
Yep, not necessarily the Nashville shooter in itself, but gun control and mental health in America as a whole.
Right. So, what do you think?
What do I think? Well,
Because we're all pro Second Amendment, as you stated before in the intro, before intro. So, obviously, me being gun control or not gun control pro, if that makes sense.
Pro Second Amendment.
Yeah, being pro Second Amendment. I don't know why I couldn't think of that. But
I don't worry about it.
okay, I just wanted to make sure.
No, it's gonna record.
But-
It's gonna turn off the screen. It's fine.
What were you saying? Pro Second Amendment.
Because I am pro Second Amendment, I am more inclined to believe that we should definitely reform mental health, especially mental health in vulnerable youth.
I think it's not necessarily mental health, but it's the way that society views it as a whole, and the way it's treated that needs to change.
Yeah, it needs to be established.
Well, how does society view this? How do they
It's kind of
idolize
on the
it?
back burner.
Yeah.
Mental health isn't generally brought to the forefront. So, in order to have a reform, you have to have something established that works. And obviously, the mental health care system in this country doesn't work.
No.
Obviously, because today's society almost glorifies having it.
Or
In ways.
or be victimized by something,
Well,
whether
and
it be a mental illness or social structure.
Yeah, some other aspect of life.
Yeah.
But you'll find people kind of pulling all these disorders like ADHD or anxiety or depression and proudly state these as their like kind of accolades.
Right.
Basically.
Yeah.
And that weakens and damages the actual people who have serious conditions or have these conditions on a larger scale that affect their life.
It kind of diminishes and takes away from people who are actually struggling.
Right.
And the more people kind of celebrate having these issues is a problem, because the more you do that, the more people take it less serious, because it doesn't seem to be as serious of an issue if everyone's...
It becomes desensitized in a sense.
Yeah. Well,
It becomes such a broad or such an upfront and broad topic that it's very difficult to needle down to the root cause of a lot of it.
But I also think it's just weird to be like, proud of having a disease.
Yeah, it's applauded, so it's not cared for.
Yeah.
You know, these people get affirmations for having this. So if you're getting affirmed for having this disorder or this illness, then there's no reason why you should not have it anymore. Because if you don't have it, then you won't get that affirmation.
Yeah.
But your life will be a lot more solid and firm if you do get the actual care you need.
Right. 100%, because a lot of those mental illnesses that do affect a lot of people that are not brought up for dramatization or for attention, but the people that really do struggle and suffer from BPD, PTSD, and a couple others that I personally know of, I know that they could definitely benefit from a lot of actual help.
Even people with actual anxiety disorders.
Mm-hmm.
Like today's society, a lot of people have anxiety
and they get pushed to the back of the line generally because all these people that are dramatizing it are just like,
well, they have
we need it.
So
Right.
they see everyone else have it and they think they're normal. You know, so they have a severe case of anxiety. Everyone has anxiety. Well, okay, everyone feels like me. Little do they know that they don't.
I think feeling like it's normal takes away some of that pressure to change.
Yeah, to seek help and get care. And
the whole "it is what it is" kind of a thing.
Yeah, it's kind of like, oh well, this is just the way that it is.
You know, like in today's society, being anxious, like anxiety is basically your alarm system for your body and your brain.
Right.
It's like something is not right with my situation and it needs to change. And in today's society, in today's world, it is hard not to have a level of anxiety and depression. But that doesn't necessarily mean you have an anxiety disorder or depression disorder, basically.
Right.
But and then that leads into the overprescription of the drugs for these disorders for people who don't actually have them, and that causes other problems that we can talk about,
like drug abuse and whatnot. Yeah.
Or just the
drug dependency, especially, is a huge one because I suffered from that in 2019.
Or giving antipsychotics or antidepressants to someone who doesn't necessarily need these; they just need someone to talk to.
Right.
You know, and
well,
but that again, that's a topic for another time.
I think that's a lot of more of an issue with healthcare and the way that works in general. It's like, instead of trying to fix the core issue that is causing the problem, they'd rather just give them something that quickly fixes some symptom of it.
Right. That's like prescribing somebody who has insomnia Xanax.
Yeah.
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 But getting back onto the mental health aspect of it in America, and then the gun control part.
Mm-hmm. Because I feel like less gun laws would be needed if a lot of potential gun buyers went through mental evaluation tests.
Yeah, there needs to be better screening for mental health.
Yeah, like mental health screening would benefit America a lot more than a lot of people would realize. Because I do that in Japan, and the system that they do it in Japan is like it takes 2 years to get a license. If I remember correctly, this could be a little extended. It could be just 1 year. But throughout that time, they have to get mental evaluations done. They have to go through gun safety. They have to go through gun training and how to properly maintain and clean a gun, store it, all that like necessary gun owning stuff.
Right.
Like they have to go through it so that way they understand the seriousness of actually purchasing a firearm.
So do you find it funny that the majority of the gun reform talk in America is for the type...
Just how long the barrel is or stuff like that. Yeah,
it's for the type of weapon you can own and what modifications are on said weapon, not necessarily who can get these weapons.
Yes, exactly.
And so then you gotta wonder why, for what? Is obviously it's not to keep
Why do
these
I
hands.
feel like that?
No, like why would you want to change the weaponry that you can own and not who can own the weaponry?
Right.
To the Second Amendment, where everybody, the right to bear arms will not be infringed.
Mm-hmm.
So you can't.
Right.
And then that's basically where the stop is because it's our constitutional right as Americans to own firearms. So to deem somebody unworthy of owning a firearm would be stripping them of their constitutional right. So then you would have to amend the Constitution.
Right.
And that's where the block is. But I do agree that we do have to have some sort of a mental screening for firearms.
Right.
It's obvious. Or get a handle on mental health in America. Basically, It's like there needs to be a bigger focus on the mental health part and less on the gun reform part. You know? And then when it comes into the case of school shooters and stuff like that, armed guards in the schools. I've seen some people saying that using the comparison as the amount of bank robberies in the nation are very, very low.
Mm-hmm.
The amount of school shootings generally aren't outrageous. Obviously, any school shooting is outrageous, and to have a standard of it's not that many school shootings is just inherently a problem. Like
Right.
if you have to say that sentence, like not that many shootings, that's a problem. It's a big problem. It
Right.
should be no shootings. Like it shouldn't pop up on the news and be like, oh,
Yeah.
it's another one. You know.
Right. I hate
So
that.
armed guards
Yeah.
in every school. We have them in banks. We have armed guards in banks.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and if you want to say that our money is more valuable than our children's life, then don't put armed guard in schools. But trying to take weapons out of people's hands is not going to stop the people that want to hurt people.
Right.
You know, a rock in the wrong hands kills Abel. A rock in the right hands kills Goliath. You know, so it's
Right.
about the mental health.
That's a very interesting analogy that I have
No.
never heard you use before. That was
It's
That was good.
It's really good.
that was really good. That's going on a t-shirt
Why?
because that's just too good.
Oh, t-shirt. Okay.
Put it on a t-shirt.
Or a
it on a
sweatshirt
t-shirt,
or some
yeah.
shit. One of our merch.
Nah.
Coffee cup.
It's,
I don't know.
It's pretty good, but it kind of highlights the idea that it doesn't matter what's used to commit violence. It's the person behind the act, not the act itself.
1,000%.
100. And it's that. And that's where I feel mental health comes big into play. Because it's like these people that commit these acts, somewhere in the line of their life, there was a pivotal moment of when they chose to go down this route.
Yeah.
Right.
And if there's intervention before that happens, and as a society, we need to be comfortable in expressing the need for help in the appropriate way.
Right. Not through attention seeking through mass social media platforms.
And this has been said probably about a decade ago when all this started, or like 15 years ago, that we need to be more open about everything, and around the same time that men need to show more emotions and stuff like that. But if a man is just emotional with no control, you get a rapist and you get a murderer.
Yeah.
You know, that whole spiel.
Yeah.
But if a man can control his emotions and act with logic and not through his emotions, you get a stoic man. You get a man who knows when to act and when to. He knows. And they kind of ran with that, and people started seeing that if you were able to be a victim essentially, or able to need the help, you would get attention.
In a public standpoint where you would get that attention. Yeah.
Yeah, and then you add in the mix of social media, and then you can say you're having some problem, and you
then
just
get attention for it. Yeah.
instantly.
That just feeds the narcissistic side of humanity.
No, I think
Those that have narcissistic tendencies will more likely use that ploy
Well,
to
and,
get the feeding that they need.
and it kind of leads back into what we were saying earlier about how it's clapped for and not cared for.
Right.
I think it's not necessarily narcissism so much as people needing this attention because they're lacking something else and they're using it as a method of meeting some need that's not being met. Because, like,
Method of fulfillment.
I mean, like, yeah, method of fulfillment.
I suppose you would probably know more about that being in that age group.
Yeah, well, because, like, I
we
don't
got a
know,
pretty good span of
50.
age, don't we?
Yeah, we do. We got the elder, and then we got me in the
The elder.
middle. there.
Elder.
We got me in the middle, and then we got you.
I'm the youngest.
Yeah, in the Gen Z.
21.
You're Z2.
Yeah.
I'm a millennial.
When
No,
were you born?
I think you're Gen Z.
97.
Yeah, you're a fucking Gen Z.
Oh shit.
Yeah,
Bullshit.
You're
Yeah.
the older side.
Yeah, I'm the
Gen
only
Z.
millennial in the college.
My 3% juice says otherwise.
Oh, jeez.
What was that? Anyways,
Edit.
I got off topic. there.
Just got a long bleep and then like, all right, edit.
Fuck, what were we talking about?
I don't fucking know, man.
Oh, I said
Narcissists.
Narcissist, yes. Your age group.
Yeah, because like 50 years ago, man, people had way more friends, and like people before social media, people were like
Yeah,
hanging out
Yeah.
and like
that was my generation.
yeah, I mean, kind of, but like we were still
Proving I'm a millennial
Yeah,
still,
you
bitch.
know.
No,
No, 'cause you were
it's
still,
gen-
like, on
it's
the
like
other side.
Generation X, and like the tail end of my childhood was before the whole like you had more friends than acquaintances and more acquaintances than friends, basically. So back in the day, you had more friends than acquaintances. Today, it looks like you have a bunch of people who care and are there for you, but they're acquaintance.
Yeah,
You
they're
know,
acquaintances, not friends.
you are more familiar with them about their social media posts than
That's
you are
just
with
an
their
age
actual
thing,
life.
then.
So
Because the older you get, the less friends you get, and the more acquaintances you have.
Look at the kids
I
now.
don't know.
Yeah.
How into their phone. So yes. So I guess depending on how you guys were
Ooh.
brought up.
Yeah.
I guess if you guys were brought up without the access to technology and the
Yep.
internet, then you would have had a childhood.
Yeah.
You know, but if you were given technology, you will not have a childhood.
I think
Yeah.
Like
Well,
it will
I
suck the
think we
childhood away from
stopped-
the child.
Because me and my family stopped using cable television for when I turned 10.
See, TV. I can't say that TV is life suck. It can be, but there's a lot worse things.
It was
now.
considered life sucking
I
back then
think-
when we were younger, which is why we didn't do it.
I think that it's not the technology itself that's the issue. It's that
The media.
because it exists, people gravitate towards it because it makes you feel more connected. And it makes you feel like you're connecting with all these people and you're not necessarily doing
It
that.
gives you that dopamine hit.
It gives you that hit, and then it feels like you have all these friends when really it's just people you kind of know. Whereas when you actually had to make friends in person, you spent a lot of time with those people and you got to know them really well. Whereas like with social media, it's like
Yeah.
you kind of interact.
It's
kinda
not like
don't.
dating, though, where
It's
you-
kind of like almost watching somebody's life.
So do you
in a
think
sense,
with that
instead of being a part of it.
Yeah, and so then making these connections with people and taking this effort face to face and doing it and building this relationship, you would probably cherish and view that relationship as not as replaceable back then.
Mhm.
Whereas today, you can open up your phone and you can have friends anywhere.
Yeah.
You can meet anybody at any time.
Yep.
So your relationships are almost interchangeable.
It's like
Not
there's-
necessarily on like a romantic, but also on a friendship level.
Right.
There's less value to it because the idea of the possibility of quickly just replacing any friends lost is more, I guess, attractive by nature
Or
because
desensitizing?
it's easier to just make a new friend if you can just make a new friend in 10 seconds on the internet than it is to like try and work something out. So
Okay.
you're having issues with somebody.
Yep. So then, and then, how genuine would that actually be? That new relationship formed out of and because of the death of the other one, and how would basically all these false close relationships impact your mental stability?
It would degrade it pretty rapidly because you'll surround yourself by essentially mannequins in a sense. Like think
I think
that you're in a large warehouse by mannequins and there's only one or two people in the mix of all that are people that you actually trust and they are lost in this myriad with you.
I think it creates like this
It's isolation
false
through a crowd.
this false feeling of connection when there really isn't one, and then you end up feeling a lot more lonely.
Yep. And would you say that you would look at yourself as like, what's wrong with me? Why can't I develop a relationship?
Yeah,
And then you have everybody doing this.
right.
And then everybody feels like there's something wrong with them, and that's why they can't maintain relationships with anybody, and then they sacrifice the quality of the relationships to have relationships with people. So would that add on to the depression, the anxiety, and the mental disorders that are so kind of normal. You know?
Yeah.
So, like, people can't develop relationships, so they get depressed because they're lonely. And then they're lonely, so they have anxiety because their body's telling them that they need social interaction. And
Right.
give them anxiety, and then so they sacrifice the quality of the people and just hang out with maybe not the best people for their life.
Right.
And loneliness can be a real difficult thing to deal with, because depending on how severe it is, if it's really bad, you could get to a point where it feels as if nothing you can do will change it. And then when you get to that point, you might start thinking things like,
Bitterness.
no, not necessarily. It's more of like, I'm too, I don't know, say broken. No one will ever like me.
Yeah.
How could they possibly? I'm just like, and then there's like the thoughts of, I'm too lonely now. And now that I'm too lonely, there's no chance for me.
Yep. And
Continues to spiral downward.
yep.
Yep.
And imagine the amount of people that are feeling that way.
A lot. Countless, actually.
Because it would, and these people obviously would be in that mode, so they're not going to reach out. And essentially that would be major depression. That would be, you would be depressed.
And the other thing is, loneliness, I think, increases the, I don't know, what would you call it, like rejection sensitivity, or I guess...
Rejection, sensitivity, and aggression.
In the sense of, like, you start to think more like, or in default more to, people are going to reject you.
Yep.
And then because of that, you start not doing things because you think it's not going to work anyways.
I feel like I'm being called out right now.
Well,
I'm calling myself out.
Yeah.
You ever sit around your house and you're like, okay, I'm gonna go do this, and then you think about yourself doing that,
Yeah.
and then you deem it not worthy of doing because you don't want to do it, and then you make up like 6 scenarios in your head that you deem not worth your time, and then you end up doing absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
It's kind of like that. It's, but obviously it's a whole different thing, but it can be compared to like.
Oh yeah, it can definitely be dumbed down and scaled downward to simple as tasks, because in a sense that is a task. It's just got a wider, heavier emotional input that's put into it to make it more stressful and more unsure.
All right, let's circle back around to gun control here. We've hit the, but it's like you
We have hit a pretty good solid standpoint on the mental health reform.
But is that
I think.
is that the point though? Is that the direction that we would need to go? Is if you
correcting that loneliness, or
No.
putting awareness or putting in a mental health care system basically, because it's mental health in America is trash.
I feel like it should be mandatory. I feel like it
Well-
should be free and easily accessible.
I
I feel that it should be government funded.
I
Okay, I guess I see what you're saying. Project Mockingbird.
No, it's just a lot of like the more government programs you have, the more overreach the government has.
I don't
True, it's like
think-
sticking
I honestly, I don't think I'd
fingers
trust.
laced with honey and peanut butter.
I don't think
Yeah.
I would want the government,
society as a whole.
like, I don't think I'd want the government in control of my mental health.
Oh, you don't want the government spoon feeding you all the stuff you're supposed to think.
Well, and especially because in that sort, when you're struggling, you're so much more vulnerable to influence from other people. And I don't think it's
The government doesn't want a whole state of people struggling, so they can influence them into doing what they want.
yeah.
Sounds like what they're kind of doing right now.
I don't think it's a good idea to give any like one entity the ability to influence masses of people in that
Like
way.
giving one person the power to ban apps.
But in a capitalistic society, nobody's gonna do it for free. Nobody's gonna be like,
Oh, of course
you
not.
know, we're
one
out
should
for
do
your
it for
benefit.
But it
Yeah.
shouldn't have to be free, and I think the cost is not an issue. I don't think, because
Like the
If
government. Yeah, sorry.
if it's a problem you want to fix, you're gonna find a way to fix it. And if money's a problem, you're gonna find a way to make it work.
I mean, that depends, though, because when we go into problem solving, we usually go back to our instincts. Like, do we need food? Do we need shelter? Do we need water?
Like if the government
It depends on.
were would be crazy and never would happen, but if the government were to be like, okay, everyone gets vouchers for therapy or mental health assessments, okay, so then they would give every citizen these vouchers, and then these citizens got to choose where they go. So then then the government want to control the institutions that people are getting their mental health care from. It would be privatized institutions,
Right.
and each institution would have to try to be better than the other one to get the business. So it would benefit everybody.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
the competition.
The
Yeah.
more success and the more legitimate success, the more funding they receive in their research for better mental health.
Well, just through the patients, like they have
Yeah.
a good institution, then their customers come or the patients
Just
come.
don't fucking heavily do it with drugs, and then
Well,
you get the umbrella company.
Especially because trust is very important. Because if you can't trust especially when it comes to mental health, because mental health is all like
You're vulnerable.
you're
vulnerable.
so
100%.
vulnerable when you're trying to get help and when you're getting help and you're getting treatment. It's because, I mean, you're literally letting someone into your own head,
Yeah.
and you can't get more vulnerable than that.
You're letting somebody into your head, and you know they have the intentions of meddling around.
Yeah,
Because that's why, not necessarily with malicious intent, but they're there to figure out what's wrong and to never affirm it. If you ever go to a therapist and you tell them some behavior that might not be the best for you and they affirm it, you better find yourself a new therapist.
Right.
Because if this therapist is saying, oh, it's okay, it'll be okay, and not telling you hard truths basically and like helping you through this, then they're just there for you to be there.
Right. Which is why I didn't need a therapist. I
Yeah.
had you.
You're just like a paycheck at that point.
Well, no.
Yeah,
Also, accountability
100%.
comes into a lot of the play too, where when you are vulnerable, you have to acknowledge that there are some things about you that you're not going to like because they are bad habits.
I
And
guess
you have to acknowledge that fact that those bad habits need to change.
in a sense, mental health and like getting help for it is almost similar in the way of getting help for an addiction, because you have to want to change already for it to be effective.
Yeah, 100%. Like, you don't stop drinking if you don't want to stop drinking.
Exactly.
You don't stop using if you don't want to stop using. You don't lose weight if you don't want to lose weight, basically. And you don't get better if you don't want to get better.
Exactly.
But you'll always go to work if you don't want to go to work. All right,
Yeah.
so basically we can boil this down to gun control in America.
Would be better.
Can't touch it
Yep.
because it's our constitutional right.
Yep.
What we need to focus on is lack of any sort of mental health concern or recognition of needing it to change in America.
And stop idolizing the massacres as well. Like, stop giving their names out there. Just
Yep.
start giving
I've-
them a number or
Yeah,
something.
well, I've seen a lot of.
Oh, that could be dangerous though, because
Well,
then
yeah,
you could-
420 and
if you start numbering these things and taking away the human aspect of it, people might
I'm
become-
talking about the murder.
Yeah, no,
Give them
I am,
their-
I am too.
Don't give them a
Numbers.
number.
If you start taking away that humanity from that, it could be less impactful, because when people stop seeing somebody else as human, that can be very dangerous.
Yeah,
Well, yeah,
I
you
see
start
what you
seeing
mean.
them as a monster.
If it
Not
can,
necessarily.
it can lead more into the desensitization.
Oh, the desensitization.
Because
viewing them as a deity, you're saying.
Yeah, it could be that, or it could be like, oh well, they're not even like important enough to have a name.
Right.
It's like this.
They can't be evil if they're not important.
It
Or
kind
if they're not real. It almost makes them not real. But
yeah.
I have seen a lot of news sources and places stop. They don't say the shooter's name. They will say like Nashville shooter or wherever it happens in the shooter, and that I feel is appropriate because 9 times out of 10, everyone who's watching this knows the person's name or has heard it from another source because other places still do that. But if not everywhere does it, I feel like they shouldn't give them any recognition. I don't agree with giving them a number. You know, let them keep their name and stuff like that, but don't give them verbal recognition on national television through their name. You know, it's going to be in newspapers.
Right.
People are going to know the name. You
Yeah.
don't need to shout it from essentially space from. But
Yeah.
I
I mean, I've always been in favor of labeling that or stripping away evil people of their humanity because once you become a monster, you're always a monster. There shouldn't be any shred of humanity clinging to you at that point if you're gonna do something so atrocious as gunning down innocent lives.
I'm not. That's
Shut up.
okay.
I know you didn't say it, but fuck you.
Okay.
We can now
This is
swear
fucking
now.
so
We're
noise.
about 30 minutes into the recording.
The thing is I'm not saying like we should humanize them because evil people do evil shit and that should not be justified by any means. But what I'm saying is if you take away their name, it could potentially take away the impact of their actions. And it could take away from the reminder that it could be anyone that can do this. It's not just some crazy person that just came out of nowhere.
Yep.
Right.
Like this at one point was a normal person. And then something happened and they changed and they turned into this monster.
Yep. Yep.
And I think that reminder has to be there that something caused them to change, because if that's not there, then you could potentially lose the
Which rounds it down to mental illness. Essentially.
it can take away from the importance of mental health in a sense of like it makes it seem less important because now it's not mental health that's causing this issue, it's this person is just that way.
Right.
Not shit happened, they changed, now they're a terrible person because they're not right in the head. It's almost like saying this is right in their head, as in like there's nothing wrong with them. That is who they are, that is the way they are, that is what is correct and right for them. Instead of they're a normal person that's messed up. I don't know if I said that
No.
exactly like right.
Yep. That kind of leads back into what we were saying earlier about how there's a pivotal point of where you can alter the path of somebody like this.
Right.
So it's like at that crossroads of they're going to choose a path to be violent or choose a path to seek help. We need to make sure that people always choose a path to get help.
Right.
And when it comes to people like this,
And make them at least know that they're being loved too.
well, social media plays an aspect of radicalization.
I think knowing that you can be helped makes a huge difference.
Right.
Because if you think, oh, I
And
can't
getting the
be
right help,
fixed.
because you can think you're getting help from anywhere.
Right. That's why people turn to like terrorist organizations and stuff, because they're in this vulnerable place and they think these
Yeah,
people are
and
helping them, but
gangs
they're
and-
just being
Well, they think they're
manipulated.
getting salvation through religion.
Or
which is very
Well,
dangerous.
with gangs, it's the camaraderie and the family,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
And the 69 virgins at the end of it all.
but it's you need to know that because there's something wrong with you
doesn't mean you're wrong.
doesn't
Right.
mean you can't change it. Because when you start thinking you can't change it, it can't be fixed, that's just how you are now, and there's no changing that, that's when people are more likely and more willing to go to that next extreme, and it becomes, I guess,
Like
less of less of a big thing in their minds, because it's like, okay, well, I am this way, I'm evil, or
This
whatever.
is how it is.
So it's the
And-
escalation,
Yeah.
basically. So it's
Yeah.
like, it's once you get 3 steps up, the 5th step is only 1 step away.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's like, you might as well keep going.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
like they think they've reached this point where retribution is impossible,
Yeah.
and that because of that, well, they're fucked anyway. They're damned anyway. It doesn't matter. Nothing they do will fix it. Nothing they do can change that.
Nothing's real,
it's
so
like-
it won't matter.
It's like they think they're on one path, and there's only one path ahead of them now, and they have to follow this road.
Yep,
There's
they
no way
they see
out.
no way. Yeah, they see no way out, so they decide to make their own exit, basically, on their own terms.
That's it.
Shit. Well, that
Anything else?
should about wrap it up, huh?
That's life in a podcast for you. Well, thank you guys for watching so much. We really appreciate it. We got links in the description down below for our Facebook page, and hopefully we can add more to that. I'm really hoping to get a lot more done and added to our socials. So,
Should we
Thank
maybe do like a summary of everything we've said, and then like wrap it up?
yeah, maybe we could.
'Cause, you know,
Yeah.
like with like speeches and stuff. The
No.
things that people remember is the first part and the last part. So like,
Yep.
so I guess what I'm saying
No.
is like,
Yep.
we kind of like
Don't
tie
worry,
it
we're
all back,
professionals.
wrap it up nice and neat, and then
Mm-hmm.
We want to do that.
So basically, we talked about the importance of
I'll do the summary of the summary.
the summary of the summary.
Keep going.
The PS. No,
you can always, yeah.
yeah, we can always have that on as an idea after.
Anyways,
That'll have to be an edit.
Well, so
we're already gonna have to edit all of this.
yeah, we're in edit mode right now, fucking you.
Just keep this clip in, just zoom in on your face.
Alright,
That's what you're getting paid for.
alright, here we go.
Yeah.
This is gonna be the edit marker.
This is that edit marker.
Alright. So to wrap it all up, gun control in America,
Could probably be easily solved with just.
can't touch
Well, yeah, you can't touch it, but
it. So
it can be
gun
easily
control in
avoided.
America cannot be infringed.
Gun-
Our right to bear arms cannot be infringed.
Right.
What needs to be scoped in on is mental health in America as a whole.
This
'Cause-
maybe this is a better way of saying it, but gun control isn't about controlling guns so much as okay, I lost that thought.
Gun control isn't about as much as controlling. It's about you
it
can't control them.
shouldn't be about controlling
Gun
weaponry.
control should not be infringed upon. It's looking deeper into
No,
the product.
the right to bear arms.
Oh yeah.
Man, we're
We got these two guys, and then we got me. We got me in far left field. All right.
It's like, oh god, my thought was not about changing our constitutional right. It should be about, or it shouldn't be about saying what we can or can't do. It should be about getting help for people that need help, and the types of people that inevitably end up committing these horrid acts.
I think I got you, but I got lost about halfway through.
What part?
I have no idea.
Yeah.
There's me, there's you.
Russ' head is like in the clouds right now.
Yeah.
He's got that iCloud storage.
Yeah. And the
All
only
right. To wrap it all up, it's not more so about controlling guns, but more so getting people help that need the help and making it acceptable for them to get the help and make them feel comfortable with reaching out.
Yeah.
The prevention of the crimes
Committed.
shouldn't be disallowing and taking away rights, and instead should be about reform and change in the way that help for these people is accessible and achieved.
Yeah. See you next time.
And that's Life in a Podcast.
Oh,
Thank you guys for.
shit.
Oh, fuck. Oh, there we go. That's the outro.
Wait, did it stop?
Oh no, we got that camera. Oh no, it didn't stop. All right, we're good.
Elijah, I need a towel.